Perfect. Thanks, Gabby. Morning, everyone. Lovely to meet you all, albeit virtually. So today I'm here to talk about the joined up recruitment that we have planned across the system at the moment. There's two promises I'll make this morning, something I don't normally do. One is that I'll give you at least 5 minutes back because I appreciate you're all incredibly busy. There's a bank holiday upon us, so I don't want to keep you all here unnecessarily. And the second is that in one form or other, we will be able to support you through this with your vacancies completely free. So not a bad reason to tune in for 10 minutes this morning to see where we can help. So for the sake of introductions, my name is Oliver Bainbridge. I'm the Senior Programme Lead for the Midlands over here at Indeed. And really what we've been doing over the past 18 months now is supporting the health and social care across the region and really just helping to ensure that as individual providers across NHS trusts and social care sector, that we're actually helping you make hires where we can actually impact them and really getting the right people through to the right services and really helping with that value alignment there. So I know as Gabby nicely just went through, usual housekeeping, if you mute your microphone and use the chat for any questions or comments you have. And any questions you've got, there will be a couple of minutes at the end just to kind of ask anything that kind of springs to mind. So a bit of background as to why I'm here this morning. Want to look at kind of the priorities for obviously the ICS and the system at the moment in terms of how and where we can actually support. So like you'll all be experiencing, kind of top of the agenda is just trying to get all your services back in line after peak of the pandemic, trying to figure out what it looks like in the coming months and actually how can I kind of realign my staffing and make sure I've got the right people in the right roles to help just make sure I'm delivering the best quality of care to the clients that I have. And that really aligns with kind of making sure that you have the right people there and actually trying to get a sense of normality as to actually what do my services now need? What has changed in the past 18 months for me as an organisation, as a business, and how can I help support my clients with the best possible standard of care? And that always comes down to actually who you have in post, who do you have working alongside you day in, day out? And these challenges have kind of grown over the past 6 months. There's been a huge shift since other sectors have started opening back up to being a really candidate-led market. So as I'm sure from conversations I've had over the past few weeks with providers across Derbyshire, it's really come out that whereas 3 months ago you might have advertised for a role and been inundated with applicants of varying quality, now it's very much the other side, that because all these other sectors are opening back up, it now leads you to go, actually, where are these candidates applying to and how do I find the right people? I was speaking to someone who leads one of the trusts in the Southwest earlier this week, and they're currently competing against bar staff who are being offered £23 and £24 an hour, whereas 6 months ago, they put an advert out and they'd be inundated with candidates. So there's been a massive shift in dynamic as to what we're recruiting to. And this is the ever competitive environment. But it really leads to how we attract and how we get the right people involved. And looking at kind of what pathways you offer is some fantastic opportunities to help people in kind of their most challenged times and really deliver that service. And obviously, I'm not going to kind of go through these things you live in, day out, but looking at the challenges around actually the generational side of things and how you're getting new talent into the sector as a whole, and really that alignment of the values and attitudes that is core to delivering a good service and actually making sure that the care that you're providing is as good as it can possibly be. So it all sounds a bit doom and gloom when you put it like that. Things have kind of shifted. It's harder than ever to recruit for people. But we're not all about kind of the challenges here. We want to kind of, as I say, what I want to bring to you is kind of a couple of solutions into how we can actually support across the region. And what we're using here is something which we've done across other systems over the past 6 months in running events that help you tell your story. So for anyone, Shane, I see you on the call today. Obviously, you were on yesterday with Danny, who was talking specifically about the storytelling aspects of recruitment and how you can really employ that to work for you. Now, what we've done beyond the simple job description and really helping organisations to get out there is talking to engaging candidates on a one-to-many aspect. So getting candidates in a room who have shown an expressed interest in working in social or healthcare, and then actually educating them as to what is the reality behind the role. Because as attracting new talent to any industry, there'll be certain perceptions that people have stepping into there that may be completely valid, and some of them it's a bit of myth busting and actually talking to, actually this is the reality behind the role we have. And what we've ran, so the example we have up here is an event we ran back in June for the Black Country. And here we engaged 11 competing social care providers from across the area. And this was from a variety of home care settings and nursing homes. And across the webinar, we spoke to what it is to work in each of these and what the different challenges that come with it. But actually, what is the real benefit from a candidate perspective? What sort of passion are you looking for from an employer? And kind of how does that alignment help someone who's brand new into health or social care? How does it help set them off on that career that will then span several decades? And what we really found from this is we screened the candidates who turned up to this webinar, and we got real positive engagement back from everyone who attended, and they were eventually translated into applicants that went on to get jobs with providers across the region. And this is a great way in which the system helped support individual providers like yourselves to recruit to their key frontline roles. What this looks like in terms of a very practical perspective, and I promise I will share these slides afterwards. And if you've got any questions, please do kind of flag them at the end. But in essence, what this process does is we manage the sourcing, and then the actual webinars held by the regional team to talk to these opportunities. And then you're provided with candidates who are in your local area where you're recruiting. They have the right understanding behind what you do as an organisation. And really, they've attended that webinar, they've engaged with it, they've shown an interest. And at that stage, it's on the organisation to then go, this is the opportunity you have. And the engagement through this middle section from the outreach, and then you actually, I was speaking to someone the other week who was telling me the biggest pain they have at the moment is scheduling interviews for people who never turn up. Through this process, because we engage and enthuse candidates through the webinar process and really allow them to understand the opportunity, what happens there is they're not engaging at this point if it's not relevant to them. So you're not spending your time with people who are just kind of trying to go through a tick box exercise. You're only dealing with people who have attended and self-selected themselves, saying, yes, this is a career I want to step into. So the idea here is that we educate people as to the opportunities that you have, and then really allow you to get them in, identify the best candidates for the opportunities you have, and essentially make the hire. It's getting these people who have the right alignment. They may have come from outside the sector previously, but who have that real passion, and getting them through this process as smoothly as possible to help support you as individual providers. So in essence, what we're looking to do here is on the 21st of September for Derbyshire, we're going to hold a webinar that will talk to the opportunities that you all have. So this will be recruiting for your key frontline staff, and actually how we can look at getting the right education in place for candidates who have shown an interest, and how we can actually provide you with the right details to make sure that these people end up in front of you, excited and enthused for actually starting to work with you. So the ask from here is very simple. If you're currently recruiting, if you have open vacancies, or you foresee that in the next couple of weeks you're going to be recruiting again, I'm going to send around a simple sign-up form that will provide myself and the team on this end with your vacancy details. So nothing too complex, what your job title is, what your standard job description is that you use for that role. So we know what you need at the moment. And then we'll look to attract and target these candidates on your behalf. These candidates will then attend the webinar. They'll engage with the content that's delivered by the regional team here. And then following that, as individual providers, we'll give you a list of candidates who have attended the webinar, who've engaged with the content, and who have been identified based on their actual specialism. So if you're recruiting for a nursing home, for example, and you need someone with a couple of years experience, then we'll look to deliver you candidates in line with that, and who are also local to you, because there's no point me sending you a list of candidates who are all 25 miles down the road, who you won't be able to actually get in on a day-to-day basis. So this is what we're looking to kind of deliver over the coming weeks. I will add in the chat now the link to the sign-up form, so you've all got access there. But initially, I'd like to invite any questions that any of you have, how this process may work, and actually how we can support moving forwards. That's it. I promised I'd give you at least 5 minutes back on this. So. Is that a stunned silence?
Sounds good to me, Oliver.
So what I've just dropped in the chat there is a link to the Google form. What I'm asking of anyone who's interested in getting involved with this is some simple details. So your company name, who you are as an individual, your core business activity, so what you guys actually do, job title, job description, the salary behind it, and then what locations you're recruiting in. Because I appreciate some of you will be recruiting across the whole of Derbyshire, and some of you will be kind of isolated to, say, just one or two areas. So if you can identify on there, I've tried to give you as broad a list as possible of the locations, but if there's any I've missed, please drop them in the bottom and I'll make sure they're targeted accordingly. Because all these candidates, if we see, for example, there's particular demand around Glossop, for example, then we'll make sure that we target candidates around there. And if there's areas where there's no opportunities, we're going to leave them be, because all these candidates have to be local to where your opportunities are, in essence. So hopefully that'll make sense. I'll drop my contact details into the message box. And as I say, I'm going to ask Gabby to forward around the slides and the recording to everyone. So if you've got any questions or you want to find out a bit more, then please reach out. Sorry, Lucy, I just saw your message there. Let me have a look. think, as I said at the start, there's always some form of technical hiccup. Right. Apologies for that, Lucy. If you can click the link at the bottom, you should be able to get straight through to that now. It should all work. So I'm happy to hang on for the next 10 minutes while individuals go through that. And I say, do let me know if you've got any questions. I'm happy to talk through on a one-to-one basis. Brilliant, Lucy. But otherwise, no, thank you for your time this morning, and I'll be in touch over the coming days.
There's just a quick question from Jane above the one from Lucy.
Oh, sorry, Jane. So, Jane, if you can list the locations specific on there. So, Bassett Law, for example, it's not on the drop-down list on the tick boxes, but at the very bottom of there, where it says other, if you input it into there, then it'll be included.
Got one question, Oliver, that says, do we need to put in hourly rates?
If you could do, Shane, yeah, that'd be brilliant. It's just to give candidates an indication behind that, whether it's salaried or hourly. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. As long as we've got that data, we can then use it to target people accordingly.
Just for those that missed the first few minutes, Oliver, just to reiterate, this is free to the employers.
Yep, this has, sorry, I should have kind of lent on that a bit more. So this has absolutely no cost to any of the providers. This has been fully funded by the system to support you guys and make sure that, you know what, any key vacancies you've got at the moment, we can help support. Aside from that, I think, yeah, we're about done. I say if there's any questions, I will hang on for another 10 minutes. But no, just thank you for your time.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you.
Just one thing, Oliver. So is there anything else that we need to do with regards to sharing and publicising the date for the live session? Have we kind of, is everybody on the call kind of comfortable with what we've agreed so far in terms of a date and the live session for employers to kind of come, and are they going to have like a sort of a, you know, 5 minutes to talk about their offer and their vacancies that they've got within their own organisation?
Yes, I've gone with the 21st based on our kind of previous conversation.
Yeah.
So
Super.
Gives us plenty of time. There's a week in which so in the next 7 days, we're asking each of the providers to submit this form. And then at that point, we'll look to start advertising this out from the 7th. So it gives us a little bit of setup time and a little bit of leeway.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I just make just a comment about looking back over the previous 4 days and think about all the tips and tricks that people have shared, and think about that when you're filling out your form, and forwarding that on to Oliver, because hopefully there'll be some new twists and ideas that you're going to be able to use to help to capture the right people.
That's a great shout, Lucy. And not particularly from Danny's session yesterday, quite conscious about how you tell your own story from that initial opening hook to kind of making that personal connection with candidates. So again, perfect opportunity to test out kind of some of the stuff you've heard and learned about this week.
Could I just ask people? I'm just wondering what the highlights have been, or what people have thought about that they'd not thought about before, maybe as a result of the sessions this week. I'm just excited to hear what are your top tips or your favourite things that have come out of the 5 sessions. Sean's typing. Looking forward to hearing what it's got to say. That's a really good point. Yeah, making the adverts stand out more, because you're absolutely right that it's a buyer's market, and it's really important to just get your head and shoulders above the competition and think about what really will attract people and really characterise your particular organisation. I really like the points about new staff, and particularly for dom care, making sure that there was a lot of structure and certainty in what they were doing. And I think that makes so much sense in terms of when it's not clear how many hours you were able to give somebody. It does make a difference, and you do get people drifting away, I think, if people don't get a lot of work to start with. So I thought that was a really good tip. I think everybody's filling in their forms now for Oliver.
I can see them coming through as you're talking.
That's a really productive 5 minutes then.
I think one of the things that stands out, Lucy, yesterday was the storytelling in job descriptions being a secret weapon, and also for me having the keywords, you know, not completely being understanding the algorithms of the platforms, that the keywords were actually the most important thing. So yeah, they were the key points that I picked up yesterday that I think I certainly will take away with me.
Yeah, I think playing the systems are really important way of thinking about it, and I love the idea of having secret weapons at your disposal. I think we need all the secret weapons we can have.
Definitely.
That's a great thing to flag there, Hazel, because from what we've seen dealing with various employees across the region, especially over the past 18 months or so, everyone's been fighting fires, for want of a better term. And when it comes to things like recruitment, it's a case of I'll just do things as everyone always done, because I've got this to deal with over here. Whereas just because internally you would call a certain vacancy a certain name, it's actually thinking about, from a job seeker's perspective, what are they searching for? And just making sure that you could spend hours putting into your job description and talking about your organisation in the most eloquent way. But if you're not getting in front of the right audience there, then it's almost wasted time. So always having kind of the job seeker in the back of your mind is kind of key to making sure that you're getting in front of that audience and you're actually capturing them in the right way. And like we went through very briefly yesterday with Danny, if there's any additional support that we can provide, and again, all this support's completely free should you need it, but what we can do is we've got access to candidate insights that can tell you, based on what vacancy you're recruiting for, what are the top keywords the candidates are actually searching for. So once you have that aligned, it's then down to you to how you tell your story, and then use those kind of secret weapons to kind of really put them into practice.
I guess your staff teams would be great people to think about what keywords they are, what words they'd use to describe what they find rewarding in their jobs, and that might be a great way to hook people in.
Yeah, definitely, Lucy. Starting with your own team and looking at actually how did you end up here and having such a successful career? It's, you start with kind of that, then you're on the right track already. Brilliant. I think we're into the final minute now. So just as a quick roundup, thank you for those who've already kind of submitted through those responses. I will circulate my details around. So if there's any questions or you want to kind of clarify exactly what the support is and what the process is from here on in, then feel free to reach out to me directly. But no, thank you all for your time this morning. I appreciate you all. Very busy at the moment and hopefully trying to get wrapped up before the bank holiday. But I hope you all have a great one and hopefully be in touch soon.
Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you.
Thanks all.